So this I'm going to fly through. I'm not even going to read it all off. You know, you're going to be picking up random tools. You know, screwdrivers, hacksaws, chisels. By the way, chisels are one of the most dangerous tools in your toolkit. What happens is you're starting to hammer away at them and it hits your finger because you forgot to keep your fingers out of the way. Okay, I'm going to skip over this.
I would say X-Acto knife is the most dangerous.
X-Acto knives are pretty bad too. Okay, you're going to need some measurements. You know, tape measure, protractor. The combo square is a pretty useful device. I don't know if people use it all that much anymore, but it's kind of useful. What you're going to use all the time is your calipers. So go to Harbor Freight, buy yourself some digital calipers. I think they're less than 20. I think they're less than 15 these days. They're worth every penny. Okay. You're also going to need some random things like extension cords, work lights, and stuff like that. Here's my call out to Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight is a Chinese importer, okay? And the quality used to be pretty uneven. It's a little more even now because they have so many vendors to choose from in China. They can actually pick and choose which ones actually deliver reasonable stuff. But you need to understand it's so much cheaper than almost everybody else that even if they occasionally sell you a bad tool, you should just be philosophical about it and say, I'm still so far ahead of the game, I'll just buy a different one. Okay. What's not on this list is Sears. You know, I think there's a Sears down in Eastridge. I don't know where the rest of them went. They're all gone. Okay. But it used to be you'd buy stuff from Sears and
Sears sold off Craftsman.
I hadn't heard that, but you know, Craftsman used to be really good quality, and now not so good. Okay.
They still sell it, but
I think Sears bought Osh.
Sears bought it, and
then they sold it to Lowe's.
Lowe's bought Osh.
Oh, did they?
And then Lowe's did it. So.
Well, and I heard that Harbor Freight does have like a replacement policy. Like you break some of their tools and they will replace them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good at it.
They're pretty good. Harbor Freight, find it. You know, use your favorite search tool, Google, right? Okay, and go for it. Okay. You're going to probably have a collection of cordless and corded tools. The first time I took the dive into cordless tools, I was not happy. The batteries wore out, and I had to throw away a lot of tools. These days, they've really standardized on the battery packs, and so give them a try. I think a cordless drill and a cordless screwdriver are pretty useful. After that, it's your choice. Each one will set you back between $30 and $50 or $60. It's your call. Make sure you have some extra batteries and a charger. And then on corded tools, you know, just pick them up as you need them. Okay. You know, I know some people who, you know, the tool they use the most is their rotary tool. That's the little tool which, you know, you stick the little bits in, and it has, you know, you can cut and grind and whatever. You know, their Dremel is one example of it. You know, it's kind of like, you know, Formica is one kind of example.
Rotozip is the big one.
Yeah, right. There's I call them saber saws, but you know they're these little blade that's go in and out. And the heavy duty reciprocating saw, that's the big one. Okay. I don't use that in the shop. I use that mostly outside. Okay. But yeah, you get the idea. Sanders, impact wrench router. Some people use routers a lot. I do not. And I own a circular saw. It scares the snot out of me because it's so easy to like zing off your fingers. And so I almost never use it. And when I do use it, I'm hyper paranoid. Okay. But again, none of this stuff, you know, you just start knocking away at this stuff as you need it, and it doesn't really hurt that bad. Okay. The pain's going to start getting worse now. Now we're getting the bigger iron. Okay. This is where you start feeling it. Okay. Belt sander, really useful tool. I actually like the small Harbor Freight belt sander Okay, I use it a lot. I have this bigger belt sander that I bought 30 years ago, and I'm using it as a shelf. Okay, that won't kill you. Grinders. Grinders are used primarily for sharpening tool bits. Okay, most of you probably aren't going to be trying to do that. The skill required to sharpen a drill bit is pretty high, and the amount of effort required to acquire that skill isn't probably worth it. You should just buy your drills as you need them and break them. Okay. Some people use chop saws. Yeah, I don't. I don't own one. Drill press. That's one I use all the time. Okay. And I have a floor model, but I actually think the bench models are pretty decent these days. They're and Harbor Freight sells them. Other people sell them as well. So a drill press is fine, but no matter what, it's going to occupy some space either on your floor or on your bench. And you may decide that your bench space is more valuable to you than the floor space. So you buy a drill press that does it. I like the ones where you can crank the table up and down with a handle that's got a pinion here. Yeah, I don't move them up and down that much. So you don't have to go overboard. The other saw, the thing I use all the time is a bandsaw. Okay, and mine's a floor model. It's really old. It is in fact a Craftsman, and I'm not too sure how much longer I'm going to be able to get blades for the thing. Okay, because it's not the most standard size. But bandsaws are just extremely useful. If you do get a bandsaw, you want to make sure there's a table on it. It doesn't have to be a huge table, and a fence and a miter gauge so that you can make basically fairly straight cuts.
And there's a difference if you're going to cut wood, if you're going to cut metal.
Yeah, I'm just about to get to that. These days, drill presses, you want to get ones that are 2-speed. And to cutting metals and some of your harder plastics, you run it on the slow speed. And for cutting wood and stuff, you run it on the...
No, I was thinking more about the bandsaw.
Yeah,
a lot of bandsaws you see are wood only.
Yeah, so, okay. I'm trying to say what you just said. You want your bandsaw to be at least 2 speeds, okay, and then you'll get it right. Okay, table saw. I do use my table saw. Mine's really old. It's 30+ years old. I don't use it that often. It's big because it's a table. I also use it as a workbench sometimes because I don't have that much space. I actually don't know where you would get a good table saw these days. I'd look around a little. Yeah, you said?
I have gotten rid of my table saws now because of the danger and also the problem you mentioned with the circular saw. There's a new system from a company called Eureka Zone, and that makes it so much safer. You mount your circular saw on a thing that slides on an aluminum extrusion that they sell, and the extrusion holds your work down and it keeps the blade away from you. The thing is so precise that I've seen people saw through 2-inch thick aluminum with a wood saw. I mean, it just really works well.
I'll have to look into that because I would love to get more space back. There's a table saw is occupying on. Yes?
I use Shopsmith. You can find them on Craigslist for under $300. They're often all rusted out, but if you look.
Yeah.
And the Shopsmith typically comes as a horizontal boring machine, milling machine, drill press, saw, lathe. He often includes the bandsaw as part of it.
Yeah. So, you want to be look around for some of that stuff. The other thing you want to worry about a little is when a part breaks on it, are you going to be able to replace the part, or do you have to throw the whole thing away? Okay. And so it's worth paying a little bit more to get some sort of company that's been around for a while. Okay. A Shopsmith's been around for a while. Grizzly's been around for a while. There's others. Yeah, Bill?
On the table saws, if you are getting one, like Delta and Powermatic are a couple of the big brands.
Yeah.
I've had a Powermatic for years. Tech Shop standardized on saw stop. And if I were buying a new one, I would buy a saw stop.
Yeah. Okay, for those of you who didn't hear, Delta,
Powermatic.
Aromatic. The saw stop is the one where if your finger gets in the way of the blade, it stops. You lose the blade, but you don't lose the finger, which is a good thing. It's a good trade-off. They do never operate a table saw or a circular saw when you're tired. Always be as awake as you can, because these are the tools that will not even notice that they're cutting your fingers off. Okay, so I'm always extremely careful around these. Radial arm saw I never use. I don't own one, but that's why I put the question mark. And then there's some people who just love welding, and I don't blame them. It is a lot of fun. A good welding rig is going to set you back some change. Okay. I cut my teeth on oxyacetylene. That's kind of passe. Nobody does that anymore. TIG stands for tungsten inert gas, and I must confess I don't remember. The good news is lathes are pretty standardized now. They're either 7 by 10 or 10 by 12 or something like that.
You mean a metal lathe?
What?
You mean a metal lathe?
Metal lathe. I don't know anybody that would use a wood lathe for anything in robotics, so I left it off the list. If you do a lathe, understand that you absolutely, if you have long hair, must use a hairnet, because if your hair gets stuck in it, it is ugly. Okay. And the other thing is, on this bigger stuff, you really want a supplier that's going to keep the parts in stock. Okay, so most of the people I know who are doing something like the lathe, they get the Grizzly. It is basically a Chinese lathe, but they keep the parts in stock, so if something breaks, you can get it replaced. The bad thing about Grizzly is it's always going to be green, because Grizzlies are always green. Okay. 3D printers. Oh, 3D printers have been a wonderful thing. How many people here have 3D printers? Okay, yeah, they're a lot of fun. We have the filament one is the one that sort of broke the ice for all of us. How many of you here have filament ones? Yeah, pretty much the same group. The resin ones are coming down in price. The Formlab is the one I think is one of the better ones out there. But that'll set you back $3,000–4,000. Well, so there's probably cheaper ones. I haven't felt the interest. And laser sintering is going to come, folks. The patents are expiring, and somebody's going to do the laser sintering. But I haven't seen it yet.
What is laser sintering?
Laser sintering is they take a powder and they put a thin layer of it, and then the laser comes along and melts it to the previous layer down. And then they drop it down, put another layer of powder, okay, and so they build it up that. What's neat about it is there's no support required.
Yep.
You can build, and you can orient the part any way you want, and it just makes it. Okay. It's really cool, yeah.
3D printers were reviewed in the recent, was it Make magazine?
I think it was, yeah.
One of the hobby ones I get anyway. And the one that appeals the most to me in there is the Prusa Model 3. It rated very high, and it's under $1,000.
Yeah. There's a fair number that have gotten under 1,000. You want to shop around.
It's a dynamic market, changing all the time.
It's changing all the time. I'm seeing a lot of people use the Lulzbot Taz. That's about $2,000, but it's auto leveling. It's really good. You have one in Dojo. Yeah, so it's people like it. Let's talk about lasers. Okay, how many people here have played with lasers? Yeah, a lot of fun. Okay. There are Chinese lasers, and then there are not Chinese lasers. Okay. The Chinese lasers are cheaper, and if you know what you're doing, you can get a Chinese laser, and it'll work for you. Okay. One of my friends got a Chinese laser, and it didn't work. Okay. He was out $4,000. So you also care about your service. You want to kind of be sure that if you get a laser, that if something breaks, you're going to have a shot with getting it to work. And they do plastic, they do wood. The really big ones can do metal. Okay, you know, there's lasers that cut aluminum. And then the bigger the bed, the better, but it takes up more and more space. So there's always this trade-off. And there's these really teeny ones from China that are 3 digits of, you know, I can't remember the number. I'm not sure I'm going to recommend those. Those that feel like they've cut a few too many corners. You're probably not going to be happy with the small one. If you do buy it, you can experiment with it and then move on. The other thing I want to point out with the lasers is the stuff that comes out of them isn't good for you. Okay, so you really want to invest in a venting system at a minimum. Truthfully, dumping the stuff into the atmosphere probably isn't a great idea, but that's kind of what everybody does. The cost of having like a activated carbon thing that eat all the outgases is usually more expensive than the laser.
You can build that for about $300.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, thanks to the indoor farming revolution, you can buy really great filtration systems on Amazon for like $100.
Okay, that's news to me. Because the last time I researched it, I'm like, this has cost twice what the laser cost.
X years ago, I spent like $1,000 for a HEPA filter thing, and that needed to be replaced. And for less than the cost of filters, you get these great systems.
So, you know, it's something to worry about. Yeah.
TAP Plastics has a list of what you can and cannot safely cut with a laser.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention about lasers is chlorine is not a good thing. Okay, because it generally tends to develop hydrochloric acid, which eats away at things. And fluorine in the materials is even worse because it generates hydrofluoric acid, okay? And then one of them, I think it was, can't remember, it generates cyanide.
ABS.
ABS is cyanide.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah, you want good, you really want that stuff vented far from you. Preferably in your neighbor you don't like. No. I didn't say that. Okay. So I just want to warn you, lasers are a lot of fun. You can do a lot of neat stuff with them. And they were the most used tool at Tech Shop. Okay. You know, the lasers were always busy. Water jets. I have to mention water jets because I just think they're a really cool technology. Tech Shop had the water jet down at the San Jose facility. I never got to see it, darn it. I know Bill got to use it.
Who has one in the garage?
What? You have one in your garage?
No.
No.
300,000?
No, so not the Tech Shop one. There is a Kickstarter out that is just about to trigger called Wazer, and they're going to be selling theirs for about $6,000. So it's an entry-level thing, and it's bench top. Water jets can cut steel and aluminum, plastic, you know, stone, you name it, porcelain. They're really cool. It's an abrasive cutting technology. It's really cool. So you know, just like I think laser sintering is coming around the corner, where the water jets are coming. The other tool that got used like crazy at the Tech Shop was a CNC router, e.g. the ShotBot. People use them all the time. When we did the Micromouse maze bases, Bill here used the ShotBot to cut out the bases. Very useful. They take up a lot of space. At least one of my friends has a smaller one that's more of a tabletop one, and he uses it all the time. I'm not sure what, I don't think it was a ShotBot brand. But still you're looking at, you know, probably over $1,000 for a small tabletop one, and I don't know how much a ShotBot actually costs. I didn't look it up. It's not cheap.
18,000.
What?
What's 18,000 for the one they had there?
Yeah.
I was actually looking at laser cutting them from just wood.
Yeah. Right.
And, you know, $150 router and a Pi and a couple of.
Yeah, it's possible.
X-Carve is a cheaper.
Yeah, so I'm just telling you that when you put the magic letter CNC in front, up go the price, okay?
Which is, I'm surprised you didn't just say manual. I mean, I love my manual mill.
That was, well, manual router, okay. Yeah, you know,
Mill.
I was trying to decide about, you know, the manual versus non-manual mill here. And the conclusion I came to was a starter Tormach is pretty close to what a starter Bridgeport will set you back. It's a little more, and you can do so much more with a CNC mill than a manual. I didn't really list it. It's, you know, either way, they're going to take up a pretty sizable footprint wherever you go. So
There are some little tabletop ones. They're not great, but
they're not great, and that's the problem I have with the mills. The reason why you want to have a mill is because you want to make something precise, and there's a lot of skill required to take a manual mill and make good, precise things on it because of something called backlash. And good CNC mills don't use Acme screws, they use ball screws for their tables. They have no backlash, and then, you know, sort of change the whole dynamic to figuring out what you want to do on the computer screen, downloading it into the mill and running it, okay? And there's still skills that you have to learn, but it's doable. How many people here have a CNC mill? Okay, there's a small number of us, okay? Yeah, as I say, I'm really liking the Tormach these days. I didn't buy Tormach because at the time they didn't have an enclosure and I had to have an enclosure. These days they do have an enclosure and they've been around for a while. You can get spare parts. I'm going to push anybody who asks me about CNC mills to go to Tormach.
But that's like $15.
You can start your Tormach for under 10. So
Not with the covers.
not with the covers. No, the covers are going to set you back. Okay, but you can work your way up. It's incremental. That's the other thing I like about it. It's sort of like, you know, you buy the tool and you don't tell them that you have to buy all the accessories. Okay, so